Debunking 4 ridiculous political claims, starting out with we need mass immigration to fill all these open jobs. Look, James Tellerico, who was recently on Jubilee, made this claim. He said we've got 7, 8, 9 million open jobs. And I also hear people on the right wing who, like Ben Shapiro, who want to increase shareholder value, say we've got all these open jobs, we need them filled. And number one, it's just not true. It's just not true. We do not have 8, 9, 10 million open jobs. These companies will post their job on 10 different websites, and these counters will say, oh, there's 10 jobs. No, there's one job opening. And that's a lot of the time not even the case. There's ghost jobs. There's jobs that are posted for tax credits. There's nowhere close to that many open jobs. And even most of the jobs that are posted are not high-quality jobs that you can support a family off of. With all that said, if that was the case, that would be amazing for workers. That's not a bad thing. You know, if we have 2 million people unemployed, and that's a lot more than that, but hypothetically speaking, if we 2 million unemployed and we had 8 million job openings, that means that all the unemployed people have a lot of bargaining power at the table. That also means people that currently have a job have a lot of bargaining power. I can leave and you can't fill this because there's more jobs than people, which gives the workers more bargaining power. So, look, I just think it's a slam dunk, even if that was the case. Either way you spin it, I don't think the claim is true, but if the claim was true, it's still a silly argument. But good luck to James Tellerico. Now, the second claim was made by Charlie Kirk, RIP to him, we'll miss him. And he said that he believes taxes are immoral because they are forced at gunpoint. And I kind of find this claim ridiculous because every law is enforced at gunpoint. You can't enforce anything without force. That's kind of how it works. You know, if you're speeding and you don't pull over, at some point the cop is going to pit maneuver you. And you're saying, well, that's so unfair because, you know, I was only speeding and I didn't pull over and now you're going to risk killing me. It's like, look, if we have laws, the only way that we can enforce them is at some point to threaten violence. That's just the only way it can work. Now, the other reason why I find this ridiculous, I don't like the imagery of it. You know, he's saying that people are banging down your door and killing you if you don't pay taxes. No one's ever died from not paying taxes. They might put you in jail, which is still very rare, but nobody's dying, let's be honest, at least in the modern era. But the other reason I find this claim a bit ridiculous is the kid that was arguing with Charlie Kirk pressed him on this and said, so you don't want any taxes? You don't like the military? You don't like police? You don't like X, Y, and Z? And Charlie said, oh, no. I like those things, and that's why I want a 10% flat tax. So a 22.4% effective tax rate is immoral if they come to your door with a gun to demand it from you, but they can come to my door and demand 10%. So now the only argument is how much they're demanding, and that's always been the argument. It's not about taxes are immoral. That's baloney. That's complete nonsense. The whole argument is about, number one, how much should we pay in taxes and how that should be structured depending on how much money you make, and what those taxes should go to. That's the only debate. The fear-mongering that was made by pretty much everybody on the right is, oh, they're so immoral. It's like, no, that's how you have a functioning society. It's how we have a military. It's how we have police. It's how we have roads. It's kind of obvious. Now, the next claim is, this was made by Joe Rogan. Everyone is leaving California. You know, he actually left California, so obviously there's some credence to that. And look, I just don't get this argument. You know, if you're going to make the claim that people vote with their feet, that was a claim made by Charlie Kirk, once again, RIP to him. And that's a very strong argument. And I really had to think about that because intuitively it does make sense. But if you're going to make the argument that people are moving with their feet, then wouldn't California still be the best state, the best ran state? It has the most people. And you might say that that's because it's one of the bigger states, so in terms of population density, it's still top 5. It's still one of the 5 densest states in terms of land mass. So neither one of those arguments really work. If you're going to say that, people always go to the best situation, which I think is a fair point to make, wouldn't California still be the best state politically then? Or if you want to go off political population density, then California would be top 5. So I don't really think this argument has a lot of credence. Now, another thing he says, and this doesn't really, I always wonder why these millionaires or billionaires complain about high prices. Like, it doesn't even affect you. But this argument is also made kind of in the same realm, is it's so expensive. California is so expensive. It's like, look, the United States is one of the most expensive countries to live in the world because we have the highest quality of life. For the most part. There's obviously some smaller countries like maybe Switzerland that have a higher quality of life, but they're very expensive. Africa, Central Africa is very cheap to live in. Mississippi is cheaper than California. People with money choose California. The people that, and this isn't to disparage anybody, I'm just saying when people have the choice, when people have enough money to move to California or Mississippi, they pick California. They don't pick Mississippi. And that's not to say Mississippi's, I mean, Mississippi is better than 99% of the world. But when we're comparing California, which is very expensive, it's expensive for a reason. There's a lot of demand. A lot of people want to live in California. That's why it's expensive. A lot of people are moving to Florida. It's getting very expensive. And they're going to have the same situation that California had, where it was a very desirable spot for the price. The demand got too high. It got too expensive. And now people are moving out. It's not worth it. California is good, but it's not that good. It's not that good. Next argument is from AOC. And her argument is abortion regulation kills women. Now, this is an interesting argument. I think it is a little missing the point, because the people that are pro-life, and I'm pro-life, if we feel like you're killing a person that has value, half of those people would be girls, which would turn into be women. So it's like, it doesn't even make sense, because we think that not having abortion regulation is killing future women, girls to women in the future. So this doesn't really intuitively make any sense, but I understand the framework of what she's saying, because she doesn't view the people inside the woman that's giving birth as a real person. So I did some research, and 22 out of 100,000 births in the United States result in death. Now, we're one of the lowest in the world, so we have about the safest birthing situations, pregnancy. If you're pregnant in America, you're going to be pretty safe. And it's tough to really find statistics on, out of the 22 out of the 100,000, how many of those have anything to do with abortion. Some of them might, if you're not able to get an abortion and maybe the doctor's confused, the doctor says, well, this is going to be a miscarriage, but we can't do a miscarriage because it's going to be classified as abortion. So I'm not discounting the fact that part of the 22 of the 100,000, the 100,000 babies were born, 22 of the times the women died. I'm not discounting that some of those might have been affected by, abortion laws, but I think it's pretty ridiculous to claim that it's like this super likely event where everybody's dying. And, ironically, I did some research into other medical things, and there's a 50x rate for major surgeries. So, when you're looking at the 22 number, 22 of the 100,000 births the woman dies in, it's just like any medical thing is